Hey everybody, I am on super early today, so maybe you are just sitting down at work and starting your day with some emails or obviously checking social media if you're watching this. So I just thought it would be good to do an early morning one for those early birds. We are in week 10. I cannot believe it is like 2 weeks left basically of the challenge. It has flown by, which I know it's flown by for a lot of you guys. But this is a fun week as far as social type of talks. We talk about the social life, and funny thing is about this week's chat, it's a rebound from the Halloween weekend we just had. I know myself, I had a big weekend. I mean, it was from Friday, Sunday on, everything was happening, all the, social events. We had a big Halloween party, and then we had trick-or-treating and, all the things. So I know that the lesson that came on Sunday, which was surviving your social life, was very timely for a lot of us. And I mean for me too, because one of those things is that, surviving your social life, deciding when you're going to splurge and when you're going to, say no is based off of what your goal is at any particular time. And me and Mary, we touched on this last week when we talked about the cost of getting lean. We also talked about the alcohol effects. I know that that video did not end up in your app because it glitched and it did not save to my phone whenever I did the live on Facebook. So if you didn't catch that chat with me and Mary, go back on the announcements of this page and you'll be able to see it. I'll try to, maybe I can do a screen recording or something of that video, but it just didn't download. It was a really good chat because a lot of times, we've hit on these type of topics, limiting factors, the trade-offs, and now surviving your social life. It's all intertwined. All these things, surviving your social life or anything like that, it's just about choices and what you're willing to trade off for your goal, your said goal. Because no matter what you say you want, if your actions are not lined up with what you say you want, it's never going to happen. And sometimes that means that you have to make some hard choices in social situations. And, when you're at home, when you're, in your own environment that you can control and make your safe space, usually those choices are not hard choices. It's only when we go outside of that where we don't know what's going to happen and things are kind of fly by the seat of your pants type of situation and you don't have a plan. That's when you can go with the path of least resistance, which is usually not in line with your goals. And so Sunday's lesson was all about another way of thinking about surviving your social life, figuring out those log jams, those limiting factors. For me personally, if I know that if I know I don't want to splurge at a party or whatever it is, I do a few things that is going to help me make those better choices that are in line with my goals. One of them is eat before. It's not always fun to go to a social event and not partake in, what's happening or, the food that's being offered. But sometimes your goal is more important than that short-term gratification. Another thing you can do to help in those social situations, so say you're going to a barbecue or a holiday party or something like that, we've said this before, bring your own dish. Bring something that you know that you can eat. And a lot of times the CK recipes that we have, because they're recipe revamps, they taste good. Most people don't even realize that they're actually good for them. So I would say bring that's usually the best way around certain social situations when it's you are going to a party that involves food, is if you can bring your own type of thing. And that way you feel like you are participating, but you're still lined up with you're still lining your actions up with your goal. If you're somewhere so say you're going to like a business seminar or something, and they're serving food, that you don't have any control over. Usually there's something that you can eat just a little bit of, like everybody usually has fruits or like a veggie something, but what we mentioned before, like pack some of those safe snacks, whether it's, a protein bar, which I don't necessarily recommend doing protein bars all the time, but there is, there is a place for them in certain situations where you can't get, real food. So say it's like fried chicken or something like that, and you're like, and doused in all these sauces or something like that. Something like a protein bar or packs of nuts or something that you can keep in your bag or your purse or your pocket will save you and hold you over until you can get to your real meal. But then there's sometimes when there's nothing you can do about situations, and you're hungry. Like, don't starve yourself just because you don't have exactly what you would deem as your perfect meal. Sometimes it just is what it is. And learning to deal and roll with those type of punches is what CK is all about. Because it's not one meal that's going to derail you. It's the days after. If you let that negative thought, that negative self-talk seep into your mind. It's just one meal. It's just one day. Move on. It's just a speed bump, because that one time is not going to define what your health is. If you act on those not so good choices day after day after day, yes, that defines your health. That's what your health becomes, because you've made it a habit to make these other choices. But make no mistake, like, you'll still have to deal with those hard choices even, well years into your life. I mean, those temptations, those limiting factors are going to be around. They're going to change. Your limiting factors are going to change from year to year. Different, people are going to come into your life and sabotage things or whatever. But, you understanding and having the right mindset that there's going to be speed bumps, and speed bumps are just part of it, but you can move on, is essential to making these things stick, where you don't feel discouraged. Mary mentioned this a little bit last week, where she almost went too strict in the beginning. And usually when that happens, you go burnout stage, where you don't feel like you have any wiggle room, where you don't feel like you succeeded because you had a blip. That is not the way things go. You will always have little blips, but the majority of the time, you're just trying to be better. And so I want to encourage everybody, even if, say 2 weeks in, you felt like you totally bombed something and you just kind of threw in the towel. Maybe you're rethinking that. Maybe you kept up with your lessons, but you didn't keep up with your habits. There is no time like right now to restart your brain and refocus. On Friday, you're going to get a lesson that's called Time to Refocus. Some of you are rocking and rolling, and you've hit milestones, you've hit goals, you've had failures, you've had successes. You're understanding, you're having these aha moments of like, okay, even though I didn't do this quite right, it helped me figure this out later down the road. Or maybe you have just kind of, thrown in the towel and you quit logging into your app, but you're seeing these videos. Get into your app. See what you can do these last 2 weeks. Like, there's no wasted time. The only wasted time is like right in this moment when you decided not to do something. But once you understand that these habits you will practice for a lifetime, you will fine tune them for a lifetime. I'm always fine-tuning my habits, even though I have the foundational things. Like, I'll never go below level 1 type of habits. I still kind of ebb and flow, and my meals change, my preferences change. I get burnout on some type of food and I change it to another. Routines change, and so then you have to shift the way that you plan and strategize. But the foundational habits of being a person that always drinks water, always eats a plant, tries to eat enough protein for their body, doesn't starve themselves, tries to get enough rest, and just do better. You're not perfect, but you're just better. That happens. It's continually evolving. And so once you realize that, that's where the healthy relationship between your food, what you can do well right now versus what you think you should be doing, you shouldn't compare yourself to people that you think are doing it better. Because if you're doing the best you can right now consistently, that's the best. And in a period of time of your life, like especially like the holidays coming up, like October was crazy, November, December are about to get even crazier. Like, you're gonna try to do the best you can do. It may not be like as strict or whatever that you were in a time period that this is all you had to focus on, but you're trying to like maintain, just ride that wave of momentum that you built already and fine tune stuff, but not necessarily add any more difficulty. And that's a good way of thinking things through, where you don't feel like that you have to hit it hard all the time, but it's really about that nice little coasting type of autopilot habits that you have, and then make it through the rough spots, and then maybe you can refocus and make some new goals. You just never go back below the level 1 type of habits. And that's what CK is all about, is changing those foundational habits, changing the way that you think. And you stop living in that I can't mentality, but you start thinking of like, well, I can do this, and this is good for right now type of thing. And if I stick with this, what I can do consistently, it'll carry me through a stickier patch where then I can add a little bit more. Just don't ever completely give up. That's the message here. So there's not a ton of lessons this week, like with new information. Even the rest of the next 2 weeks is more about like perspective and, really trying to wrap up this whole mindset of, how you live and forgive yourself, and, what that means as far as like a lifetime of habits. That's what we're going to be focusing on as far as lessons, but there's not going to be any new like changes to your habits. This is all about fine tuning. And even though it's the last 2 weeks coming up, this is still like, prime time to ask the questions, ask your coach to look at your food log if you need it, if you wanted to change anything. But no doubt you guys have probably hit a really good stride. And like I said before, if you fell off, get back on. Just start with week 1 habits. Like, you don't have to start at super hard stuff, and talk with your coach. You've got them. They're there for you for the rest of this time, or you can post on the page. And of course, people will respond and give ideas and stuff. But if you have any questions about this week or anything coming up, I know Friday you get your final health metric card. That's just kind of like a reminder to like make your appointment if you're getting like, blood work and stuff measured, if you wanted to log that. You also have your progress pictures due on Saturday. The last set of week 12 won't be due until week 12 Wednesday pictures. So just keep an eye out for those instructions on how to upload and stuff. But I will see y'all next week for week 11 chat. All right, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.